So welcome everyone. Very, very excited about the conversation we're going to have today. Welcoming to you, Annie Meehan. And just to let all of you know, sometimes I talk to coaches that are really resistant to social media. Annie and I met through social media. We met on LinkedIn, and that's how this connection is happening. And that's the reason we have this webinar here for you today. So definitely an advantage, some power to taking advantage of that. I'm going to stop my screen share. Today is all about having a conversation. Annie's going to lead that. She's going to tell you about herself, and we will go from there. So Annie, welcome.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks so much for having me. Kathy might be nicer than I am because I'm going to beg you to turn on your camera, plead with you to turn on your camera. Thank you for two of you that have turned on your camera. I so appreciate you for a lot of reasons. Number one, I miss people, right? Like I'm a speaker that travels all over the world, and now I'm stuck in an office and I'm like, please give me people. So I love to see your faces and your smiles. So Andrew, and how do I say your name?
Madhavi.
Marivi, very nice, beautiful name. Thank you for turning on your cameras. And if any of you want to turn on your cameras later, I don't care if you've showered, if your hair is sticking up straight, if you've brushed your teeth this month even, I just love to see your faces. And if you don't feel comfortable turning on your cameras, please join us in the chat box or feel free to unmute yourself. This is really created as a time and a space for conversation. I am presently in Minnesota. That is where I live until the end of October, and then I'm moving to Florida. Just a little bit about myself and why I'm so passionate about H3 cultures, which stands for health, hope, and happiness in the workplace. It really comes from my heart work, as I like to say, is that my upbringing was rather dysfunctional. So there was a lot of unhealthy, unhappy, and lacking hope, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. And as I watched over the last year and a half, what I recognize is people are experiencing that. And so I want to first bring you back to that. And then I want to kind of walk through a conversation. This is going to be interactive. I'm going to ask you to do some work, and I'm going to tell you how I do these three and why it matters. But I grew up as the middle child of 7 kids raised by a single mom in extreme poverty. And through that, we had fires, we had floods, we had homelessness. There was just a lot of sadness and darkness. I was telling my sister and I were chatting last night, and I was saying one of the things I loved, I've always worked since I was 7, I love babysitting because people had food. And I would pray for those good families that had food in their fridge. And for some people, they're just like, what do you mean they had food? But for me, that was not a given. That was not something that was necessarily available for me all the time, as my mom did her best and she worked multiple jobs at times. But it's hard to be a parent, number one. It's super hard to be a single parent with 1 or 2 kids, let alone 7. And there just wasn't enough. Thank you, Chris, for turning on your camera. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And so there wasn't enough. And health encompasses many things. So for 12 years, I owned gyms. I had 2 Snap Fitnesses, one in a small town of about 5,000 and one right in St. Paul, so in the large city. And over those 12 years, I met thousands of clients, and I never helped anybody lose weight. Many people would come to me to lose weight, but I just could not help people with that. But I could help people with their mindset, their habits, their self-talk. And a side effect might be weight loss, but weight loss in and of itself was never a driver for me. I couldn't get myself behind that. I could get myself behind how people talk to themselves. So that's another big passion of mine. So today I am married. I have 3 kids. My primary work is I speak all over the world. I am an award-winning author with 5 books, and I am a certified coach. But the majority of my work is going out into workplaces and saying, how can we help change your culture to be more positive, to be an environment people don't want to quit, they want to stay, and they want to get their friends to come work. And so H3 Cultures, Be the Exception, is my most popular book. And that book, when I wrote it, won a national award in the category of self-help. And so for a long time, my main topic was be the exception as a leader, be the exception in your sales, be the exception in your life, personal and professional development. But over the last year, I've really thought about what is lacking. Where are people struggling? So I'm kind of all over the place too. So I hope you'll stick with me. I am married. I have 3 adult children. At least 2 of them have outaged me. I don't know how that happens, but I'm 28 and they just keep getting older. So it happens. But I love being a mom. I love my work so much. I really miss I am traveling some again, but I miss as many live and in-person presentations as I used to have. So I'm grateful to be with people. But H3 cultures came because I thought, what is lacking for people? I think people don't feel healthy right now in a lot of ways, physically, emotionally. Maybe people don't feel hopeful. There's a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. People are like anxious themselves and trying to hold it in, which can make us unhealthy. And then what about happiness? How do we get happy and how do we stay happy? So today I'm wearing orange. I love my bookshelf behind me because I got that blue and orange, and I like to invite people to live in color. Like, let's get color in our lives. I think that's a great way to change that. And so when we think about H3 cultures, what I want people to think about first is a couple things. Number one, I'd love for you to have paper and pen with you. Ideally, I'd love for you to have, I know you probably don't, but just if you happen to have green index cards, yellow index cards, and orange index cards in front of you, that would be ideal. So if you have color, get some color. But if you don't, get some index cards or just a piece of paper is fine. But maybe you'll go back after this presentation and you'll apply these to colorful sheets of paper or index cards, whatever it is, because color does impact us and color gets us to think about different things. So the first thing I always like to think about is health. And I first always think we need to start with an assessment. How is your health? So when people think of health, they think of physical health, right? Like that's the first thing we think of. How's my physical health? How's the number on the scale? How's my energy? How am I feeling? But I actually want to give you 7 words to write down. So we're going to start with an assessment of how is your health. So the first word we want to write down is physical. And that is, how is your physical health? Do you bounce out of bed in the morning? Do you need Advil to get through the day? Do you take good care of yourself? Do you feel good? So what I want you to do with the word physical is give it a score. A 10 would be like, Annie, I'm amazing. I'm totally fit. I'm energized. I feel great. A 0 would be like, holy cow, I am dragging myself through the day, barely getting through. So give yourself a score on your physical health. How would you evaluate yourself and your physical health? The second one is your emotional health. How is your emotional health? And what I mean by that is, do you allow yourself to tell people, you know what? I am really sad. I am really stressed. I am really frustrated. I'm really angry, without apologizing. So do you express your emotion freely without, sorry, I'm sad. Sorry, I'm so excited. Sorry, I'm disappointed. Sorry. No, just be. And being emotional and acknowledging that and allowing yourself to be that. There's freedom. And I think sometimes around our emotional health, there's a lot of silence, there's a lot of shame, secretive. And I think we judge ourselves and we think the world's going to judge us. But one of my most watched videos on YouTube, I try to do a video every week. And I think this was like in April or May of 20. And I had 85 live engagements on my calendar. And March 13th of 2020, I was on stage at the Mall of America, Radisson Blu, doing a conference that was supposed to have 350 people. 250 showed up. And when I was supposed to be done at 1:15, by 1:17, the room was empty, with the exception of my videographer and my photographer. People's fear was huge. And people, I got it, I'm okay. And I did a video about a month after that. And I talked about, I was crying and I was saying, this is devastating, not only financially to my business, but emotionally. My business was climbing. I had so many great connections. I was so excited. And I think I had over 2,500 people commenting saying, thank you for being real with this, Annie. Thank you for being authentic. I'm terrified. I'm sad, but I'm scared to tell people that they'll think I'm weak, but you're so strong. And you're saying, hey, this is hard, really hard. So emotional health is acknowledging your emotion without apology would be a high score, and a low score would be holding your emotion in, which can make us physically sick if we don't express it and allow that to come out. So emotional health. The next one is your mental health. How is your cognitive health? And what I mean by mental health is not the opposite of mental illness, but mental health is, how's your focus? How's your concentration? How's your memory? When you read something, can you remember it? Do you have a to-do list that you go by? So mental health, how do you feel like your brain is operating? Is it so overwhelmed by everything that it's not operating? Silence, scheduling time for silence every day, 3 to 5 minutes a day, ideally. No phone, no computer, no music, just complete silence can really calm the brain and let it shut down. Think about our computer. We turn it off at night so we can have some downtime to reboot. do we turn ourselves off and give ourselves that? So your mental health is how's your focus, concentration, mental health. So write down the word mental and give that a score. Your next health that I like to talk about is your spiritual health. And what I mean by that is, do you believe in something bigger and greater than yourself and rely on that and spend time in that? Or do you think you're in charge of the universe? Because that can create a lot of anxiety. So how is your spiritual health? Do you have a good spiritual faith, and do you spend time in it? The next one is your financial health. A lot of people don't think about finances as being healthy, but it absolutely is. Financial unhealth, and this is what I learned from working with so many clients at the gym, is like, if your finances are out of order, it will just stress you out. It will keep you up at night. You won't be able to sleep. So do you make enough? Do you save enough? Do you give enough? Do you spend too much? Do you spend a good amount? So how is your financial health? Give yourself a score in financial health. All right. And then your career. How is your career health? Do you like the people you work with? Do you like what you do? Is it still challenging to you? And sometimes even frustrating, but it's growing you. Your career health is that it's healthy. It's a healthy environment. It's not a toxic environment. It's an encouraging, supportive environment. So your career health. And the last area of health that I like people to think about is relational health. How are your relationships? Do you have people in your life that pour into you, believe in you, encourage you, support you? Or do you have people in your life that wear you down or speak negative to you? And so I like to take that green index card and write the word healthy on it. And what I like to think about is a couple things. Green is the color of growth. Green is the color of life. And so when we think about trees and plants, they're very life-giving. So green is the color of your health, because ideally you are growing in these different areas of health. Does that make sense? So you're growing. So when you look at these 7 different areas of health, and it doesn't have to be your lowest number, but what I want you to think about is, what is the area of your health that stresses you out the most, that keeps you up at night, that you are disappointed or discouraged in yourself? Like, dang it, that is not healthy. I do not have healthy relationships, or my finances are out of order, or my mental health is all over the place. Whatever it is, if you could just pick one area of health to focus on, which would it be?
Physical.
Your physical health. Okay. Very good, Chris. And you know what, Chris? What we know also about these areas of health is they're very connected, right? Like, so if we improve one, it'll improve others. If we're hurting in one, it will hurt others, right? And so when you're thinking of physical health, what does that mean to you?
When you were saying about what is it like for you when you get out of bed in the morning?
Yeah.
That's what came to my mind. Just like achy, like I know I'm not moving enough during the day, especially now with, this pandemic. And I know that when I do those things, that I feel better, and I feel more capable to deal with other things. Yeah.
I like to think of, when we think of physical health, and you're identifying exactly what you need. So I love that. You're not just saying, I'm getting out and I'm achy. You're saying, you know what, I know. And then I know that I need to move my body more. So I sometimes think, especially as a gym owner, what I watch was people say, Annie, I just don't have the time to work out. I do not have the time. I've got this, I've got that. Okay, I get it. And so what I always think is, what is the smallest bite that you could take that you would actually do most days? Not every day, because there's days we can't do it, but can you do a 5-minute walk 3 times a day? I talk about one of the things I'm kind of known for is the pineapple principle. And part of it is, it's a poem, and it goes like this: be a pineapple, stand up straight, wear a crown, be sweet on the inside. And each of those components, I take the poem and I turn it into a principle, because I'm like, how can I show people to be pineapple people? But the wear the crown piece is very important to me, Chris, when it comes to our physical health. So when I'm honest with everybody, which most people that know me know, if you ask me, Annie, what do you want to do every day? I want to lay in bed all day and eat donuts. Anybody? Like, that is what I just want to do, that, Andrew, right? Like, that is a pick me, chocolate donuts all day long. But then I remember this: I'm valuable. And if I don't take care of myself, I can't serve other people. So I think about that crown, Chris, and I think about your crown. And what I do every morning, whether I feel like it or not, is I get up and the first thing I do is drink a glass of water. And the second thing I do is go for a walk. Sometimes it's a 5-minute walk, sometimes it's an hour walk, sometimes 10 minutes, but I just do that. Now, after that, I might have a coffee with extra vanilla cream. I might drink a Spark energy drink that I like. I might lay on the couch and do some reading or writing, but I do that. I give myself that gift because I'm worth it. And Chris, when part of our body does ache because we're not moving it enough or in the right way, but we also don't want to go from 0 to 100. Like, you don't have to go and run a marathon. But what if you walked around your kitchen or around the block once or twice a day? Is that something you could do?
It's something I'm capable of doing, yes.
Yeah. Do you work from home or do you work in an office?
I mostly am, home-based primarily.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
And what stops you in the morning from doing something to care for yourself before you start your day?
Well, I'm not really much of a morning person, so that's like going a little bit against the grain. Yeah, so it may not be a morning situation, but I could switch that to the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think also having a little more agency over my work, right? Like, could I have been on this call on a walk?
Yeah.
And I know the value of the face time. And so I decided not to.
Well, I'm happy you're here. Plus, you can take notes. It's hard to do this and take notes and walk.
Yeah, right. But, like just having more agency around some of my other calls to do those walks. And I did do that yesterday.
See, and that's a win. And we celebrate the wins. When I meet people and they say, Annie, I'm going to do this every day for the rest of my life. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. So don't say every day, but can you do 3 days a week? And can you do 1 walk a day, 3 days a week around your kitchen, around the block, whatever? And always set yourself up to win, because we build on wins. Like if we say, I'm going to walk an hour every day, and then we don't, we're disappointed. And then we're like, never mind, it doesn't work anyway. So set yourself up to win. And if you're not a morning person, which I think everyone should be a morning person because we're the happiest people in the world. I'm like, sunrises are my secret because nobody else is up. I'm up. Everyone else is waiting for the sunset. But it doesn't have to be morning. You're right. Do it in your lunch hour. Do it in the evening. But also I schedule. I mean, I'm pretty intentional in scheduling time to work out, time to do things, because if I don't, there's always something that will fill up that time, right? There's always something that will come in and steal it, especially if it's time for me. And saying yes to myself and my own health is really a huge key to my success in life, in every area of my life. So I really encourage you to do that. And I thank you so much for being brave to share what you're working on. Yes, Andrew.
So Annie, you got me really thinking and self-analyzing when you talked about relational health. I'm kind of an extrovert, and I know lots of people, and the job is very public and all that stuff. But when I actually tried to ask myself that question and score it, I score myself very low, because there's very few people that I would speak to, support, and whatever else. So thank you for raising that, because that's got my head going in a lot of different ways about what I need to do and go find differently. That I'm surrounded by people who like me, I think. But it's not the kind of relationship piece that I think I need. I used to have lots of them. I don't anymore. So thank you for that. That's a big learning for me.
Andrew, are you talking about depth of relationship versus, I know a lot of people and I don't have a lot of deep relationships?
Yes, there's a couple of things going on with the family at the moment that are really mega health problems, really mega, life-threatening mega. And there are a few people that I feel I can talk to about it. And yet I know hundreds of people. And if you go back 10 years, I probably had a dozen groups that we would have really deep, full, rich conversations. Now, probably got 2. And one of those is my brother's.
And that's okay. Family can be friends. I love that you're thinking about it, Andrew. And a big part of what I teach, especially when I first started speaking, was intention, intention, intention. What does it mean to live an intentional life? So unfortunately, I lost 3 men in my life, 3 generations of men to mental illness and addiction. And so I think it is that rewind, slow down, and go back and say, okay, I used to be in these groups where I felt really close to people. So my encouragement to you would be to make sure that really in the next 72 hours, you reach out to 1 or 2 of those people and just start to reconnect. And I am more like you in that I'm an extreme extrovert. I have over 22,000 connections on LinkedIn. I have over 6,000 friends on Facebook. So I know a lot of people, but sometimes I get so busy going that I forget to slow down and go deep. I just go wide. And I am super grateful that my daughter and my husband are probably my two best friends in this world today. But I think if you have one or two or even three people that you feel really safe sharing with, you are doing better than most in this world, which is, I don't know if that's good or bad or sad, but a lot of people are private, whether they're introverted or extroverted, but a lot of times people are so busy that they don't take the time to listen. Andrew, what's going on with your family? I'm so sorry. I'm here for you, because they have their own story and family and challenges. So I just encourage you to be intentional in reaching out to those people you used to be connected with, and then making sure that it's a great balance. That's a healthy relationship too, is I'm going to hold you up in your struggle, but I'm also going to be here to hold you up. And I'm also going to be there to celebrate you when life is good, and to just connect for fun and to connect for depth. And especially as a man, I so appreciate you sharing this, because I do a lot of coaching and consulting with men that are going through retirement. And they'll say to me, I don't know who I am or who my friends are without my job. And so thinking about it now preventatively, rather than waiting until you're home, like, okay, what did I do with my life and who are my people? So I'm glad that that resonated with you, and that you're letting it sink in to think about, what does that mean to have good, intentional, healthy, deep relationships, right? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else want to share an area they're working on or they're thinking about, something that surprised them on scoring their health and wellness?
I think career health is kind of what's coming up for me right now, just in part of the whole COVID great resignation type thing. So working on creating my own business and really defining that. So working on it. But yeah, it's something that definitely I thought of first.
That's excellent. I do think I'm such a big list person. You know, I'm a big, like, writing it down. What are the pros and cons? What are my goals? What am I working on? I'm always working on something. And sometimes that's good and sometimes bad, because I'm so driven and I have high expectations of myself and other people that I have to be careful, like, okay, be realistic, which is not my strength. But I think when we're thinking about a new career or thinking about what we love about our career, creating that. I was working with a guy the other day, and he's kind of in job transition. I was like, what do you love? What gets you excited? What are you passionate about? And can you get paid for it? And if you can't, how do you make room to feed that hobby? Because feeding our hobbies, even if we don't get paid, can also bring us to a better place. So when we show up at work, we're loving our job more. And so creating those pros and cons out of where you are working, or what does it look like to own your own business? I used to say when I first bought my own business, I think I'd rather get paid 50 cents an hour than work for myself, because at least at the end of 10 hours, I made $5. When you work for yourself, you might've spent 50,000 and not made any. So it can be challenging as well. But I love that you're thinking about it. And that's part of being healthy too, for me, is all about evaluation. So as we assess our lives, as we evaluate, and we look at these 7 areas, it helps us to think about what can we do to be healthy and happy. So part of what I like to do is I love for you to get a green index card and write healthy, which is, again, you can do this later. And then I love you to get a second green index card. And this one has lines on it. And so what I like to create with people, and what I like you to create, is what are 3 to 5 things you can do to improve your health. So I love that these are a variety of things. So whether it's our career health, our relational health, or our physical health, or Kathy, do you have one that you're thinking about?
I hesitate to take away from anyone else. I'm thinking about all of them.
Well, there you go. There's no wrong answers here, but I'd like you to write down 1 to 5 things that you could do personally to improve that area of your health. So I'd like you to think about, like, what can I do? I want to be physically healthier. We talked about some ideas, but I want you to write down at least 3 ideas. How could you improve this? It's not even necessarily what you're going to do. It's just different ways you can improve it. Because like Kathy said, for most of us, we could all improve in any of these areas of life. So when we think about all of them and we share ideas, I always say there's no copying in my presentations. Instead, we are sharing ideas, because all of us want to be better in our lives. And so as you share something, I might be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to write that down. So please write down each other's if they resonate with you. But I hope I give you a minute. I'm pretty fast moving to think about what are one or two different ways you could improve your physical, relational, career health? Or Natalie, John, and Jill, if you have one or two areas and you don't want to unmute or show your faces, feel free to write in the chat box as well. Like say, hey, Annie, I'm working on my financial health and I'm going to start a change jar. I'm going to do Dave Ramsey, whatever it is. Or I'm working on my significant other relationship. I'm going to schedule date nights, whatever that is. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to start with you, Chris. Do you have a couple of ways? Oh, thanks for sharing, Natalie. I appreciate it. I love how you said creating space for silence and that a bedtime routine to better wind down at the end of the day. Absolutely. Walk away from that phone and TV, especially the news before bed. We want to fill our minds with positive and relaxing thoughts because sleep is a huge key in being successful in all areas. Going to bed well, staying asleep, and waking up refreshed. But a routine is a huge key. What are ways to improve your health? That's right. Kathy, thanks for sharing that question. All right, Chris, I'm going to come to you. What are a couple things you think you could do to improve your physical health?
So I wrote down doing more stretching every day. And so there's like some yoga moves that I do. And, I kind of look at my yoga mat. And so maybe I'll actually like pull it out from underneath the desk and just as, maybe in the evening, just before kind of going to bed, to kind of do some of my moves, even if it's just for 5 minutes.
That's right.
So that's one I wrote down, and I'm going to continue my kind of daily paying attention to, have I gone out for a quick walk? So it's just more of a daily check-in with myself. I'm not committing to like a certain number of days in a week or anything like that. Just like I'd like to do it every day. So just having that more present. And so with those two, I added a third related to mental health around, or that, I forget what you call it. The mental health. So I would like to also do a little bit more meditative time for myself, because I think that reinforces some of my other goals that I have, just having that quiet time to just remember kind of what's important to me. So
I love that. I'm a huge believer in bedtime meditation. So I try to encourage people, you listen to a meditation on your phone. If you set it away from your bed so you're not looking at it, but listen to a meditation, either guided or quiet music. You can put in relaxation, sleep, guided, body image, self-talk, sleep, whatever it is. There are so many great meditations out there, and you can look whether you want one for 5 minutes or 5 hours or an hour, whatever it is, but that meditation before bed. Yoga, I think so many people use for the stretching component of it, right? Like it just helps our body stretch. So I love that. I love that you're giving yourself grace around walking, but you're also saying you're going to do it and then check in. So that's great. And those are all excellent ideas. So thank you. And I'm going to come back in just a minute too. Kathy, did you have something? Yeah.
I want to add one. And I got this idea from somebody on our team, on our coach support team. They lost over 200 pounds. And one of the things they talked about was when they were completely bedridden, couldn't do anything, they started this habit of exercise snacks. And it wasn't anything big, huge, or grand. It was just starting to move a little bit. And I think a lot of us that work for ourselves get tied to our desk and we don't get up and we don't move around. And I know that's impacted me. And so, Chris, to speak to what you're saying, just the idea to get up and, okay, I'm gonna start moving or stretching or just do a little bit where I'm at. And it's a huge starting point.
Yes, those little bite-sized pieces. And one thing I love is I have the Versa watch. I know a lot of people have the Apple Watch, but if I don't get 250 steps in, there you go. It says, hello, Annie, get moving. And it buzzes on me. And I love that because I'm like, I can go to the bathroom. I can walk around my office and it doesn't have to be a lot, but it's because we can just sit for hours and not even know. So excellent reminder, Kathy. Thanks for that. Andrew, what do you think about relational health? How can you be better and more intentional with your relationships?
So 3 things I've got is one, the one that you said, which is reach out to someone. Don't wait. Go proactively find. I've had a couple of people who've said they understand what's going on and would like to help if I want it. So that's a proactive is on me to reach out to them. I do like the idea of 72 hours as well, because you tend to do this, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then next week it's still on the list of, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then the next, so do it by Friday. That's I like that. So that's one thing. The other one, again, you talked about men in retirement. Well, that's something on my mind is I'm hopefully in the next couple of years going to bridge that gap. And you said, what are you? I mean, so I gotta answer that question. What am I? I mean, this is a big 24/7 kind of role, but what am I going to do when it stops? So I might start to do some research there in terms of, I don't know that I'll stop doing, but what will I do? It's more about me, not about something else. And that's a tough question. I've started to think about it, but I got to get my head around that big time.
I like that.
And that generates my third one. I used to be a Christian, and I'm not sure what I am now. And there were some things happened that caused me some big concerns. So there's some thinking and an inquiry for me to do there about what is the bigger purpose? What is it all about? And again, it's easy to forget that kind of focus and thought process when you're doing tasky stuff all day.
Exactly. So you've got some soul searching to do. I do kind of think it's my specialty is working with men moving into transition and retirement, which I didn't really think was, but it's an interesting thing because we are made different. And as women, we are more relational, and that's how we identify more often. And as men, careers, not always, but it's common. And so digging into what does that look like? And I've had women reach out, will you coach my husband? I'm like, listen, he has to decide. I'm not, you can't hire me for him. I'm sorry. It doesn't work like that. But I love that you're thinking about that. And I think relationships and being intentional, like definitely reach out and ask. And one thing I find is people are anxious to invite people into their homes or who initiates, and people are busy. So it's not a lack of caring. I think it's a increase of distraction and stress that has made people disconnect even more. Definitely the pandemic affected it, but it's beyond that. So I love that you're just thinking about it, plus thinking about what's next and journaling. If you're a writer and you're open to writing, that can be a really great tool to use. So thank you for sharing those, Andrew. And Marvia, is that it? Marvia?
Maravi.
Mm-hmm. You say it much more beautifully than I do.
Yeah, you say it beautifully.
Yes, she does. What are some of your career tools that you could use?
So yes, I'm an introvert, but I can't be without people. So, I just get my energy from being by myself and reading, but love people. So working on not being so shy about what I'm doing. So reaching out to some people I trust just to show them kind of like my business plan. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of did that and they kind of messed it all up, but it's good because they're right. So I just got to figure it out. So I think reaching out to more people and, the world is so small now, with social media and what have you. And so starting to reconnect with people on social media, not because it'll help my business, but because it'll, maybe the opposite. There are things that I should be doing and haven't done, or people I should be checking in and haven't. So starting to open up, I think, my world a little bit more now that I'm out of that day-to-day rigor of working in corporate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I also like that you shared that you're an introvert and you're shy, because I think both being introverted and being shy can be quickly judged as snotty. Mm-hmm. She thinks she's better than us. And I think it's really important for us. I'm all about moving from judgment to wonder, but I think it's really important for people to recognize we're different. It's not that you're not caring and kind and don't love people. You refuel with a book, but you love people. And so I love that. So really what I believe about H3 cultures is that it starts individually. This is a personal thing that we must do. But in order for me to influence the workplace, then we have to think about how do we take these tools and implement them in the work. So creating a culture of H3 for me is like, what does that look like in the category of health? So one thing I like to think about, and all of these things you can do, Chris, right away when you said walking. I was being interviewed on a talk show yesterday, and this woman, I said, I hate to be sexist. I'm not sexist, but definitely men and women were different, right? And so when I'm around men, they'll be like, let's get together and watch a basketball game or a football game, or, let's go shoot pool. And when I'm with women, they're like, let's go to breakfast, let's go to lunch, let's go to happy hour, let's go to dessert, let's go for drinks, let's go for dinner. And I'm like, okay, it's always around food and drink. So one of the things, Chris, that I love is I love to have friends that I say, hey, Chris, let's go meet for a walk.
Yeah.
Let's go meet and rollerblade. Let's go for a bike ride. So really being intentional. That I'm such an extrovert and I love being people, and I think everything should be done together. And I'm married to a total introvert. And I'm like, do you want me to come with you? And he's like, I'm good. I'm like, are you sure? I want to go. It's like, oh my gosh, do you have to do everything together? I'm like, it's more fun to wash the dishes together, whatever. But what I want to think about is how can you create, so you all had individual ideas, but how do we create these communities and culture? So one thing I like to encourage companies to do is let's do a cooking class. And sometimes people say, Annie, we don't have the budget to bring in a cook. Well, what I say is you have somebody in your office that is a great cook or a great baker. Let them demonstrate. We don't always have to pay for it, but creating a cooking class, working together and creating that community. We do need other people. So I have worked for myself for, 18 years now, something like that, 15, I don't know. Anyway, a long time. So I don't have a company. I don't have people, right? And yet I know that I need people. So 9 years ago, I created my first mastermind, and I only met with entrepreneurs, and we met once a month, but I created them as part of my board, part of my community. So if you work by yourself, go find coworkers. Find somebody, don't be threatened, that does the same thing as you. I have a ton of friends that are coaches and speakers. I'm not threatened. We gather together, we share ideas. What are you working on? What's been great? What's been hard? So create your own team. If you're working for a company, these are things you can do within your company, but these are things I do with peers that are now speakers. I started with all different entrepreneurs. 7.5 years ago, I created a mastermind just for speakers, and now there's 16 of us. I'll do my last live event this month because I'm getting ready to move from Minnesota to Florida. So a cooking class. The next thing is a water contest. How much water can you drink in a day? For some of us, for some people that don't drink water at all, I love pop. I love sweets. I'm just being honest with you. I love it. But what if I had a glass of water before my first cup of coffee, and then a glass of water after, and then maybe I had a pop or a soda pop, and then I had another water? So can I put 3 bottles of water in my day? Can I put 4? And then challenging each other in a friendly, supportive way without shame, trying to remove that shame. A walking group. I like Financial Peace University. Have any of you heard of that? Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace University. So I've gone through it twice. I always tell people I don't like it, and yet I think it's really good. And I highly recommend it because we would rather talk about sex than money, right? Like it's just easier in this world to talk about, I'm using my credit card for everything and I don't have an income. And I have watched too many people lose their homes and not be able to pay for things they needed because they were irresponsible with money. So financial peace gets you to be honest. And when you own gyms like we did, we had over 100,000 on the line of credit that we were playing with all the time. And I had to let's look at this. Are we being as smart as we can be? And so as a business owner, it's really easy to invest in things. And we have to ask ourselves, can I afford this investment? Does that make sense? So I like to do Financial Peace University as a group. You can do that in the workplace. You can do it with neighborhood people, whatever it is. And I was saying, bring in a coach. I know some of you are coaches or work in HR, but bring in a coach to your company and have them do some exercises. Like in my coaching toolbox, as I call it, I have 150 different exercises I can do with people that I can go and do. And having that, yes, you need to invest in a company to do that. But if it creates a culture of clear communication, of hope, of health, of allowing people to not be overwhelmed by their struggles, but instead be supportive to one another, then that's worth it. So we think about always the individual first. What can you do personally? But then how can you expand that to bring it into your workplace or to bring it into your peer group or your board or whatever, however you create culture. So that is health. So I go with health in the first one. I know now the time's flying all of a sudden. I thought I wouldn't have enough here for an hour, but let's see. Yellow is a color of hope. So I like to think about get dressed in color, fill your closet with color, but yellow to me is the color of hope because yellow is sunshine. And I'm Annie. Some people call me Little Orphan Annie, and the sun will come out tomorrow. So I like to have a card that is about hope. How do we stay hopeful? What do you do to stay hopeful? And so when we're not living in hope, we're often living in fear, anxiety, dread, anxiousness. So when we think about hope, how do we stay hopeful? How do we stay hopeful individually and as a group culture? I want you to think about how do you stay hopeful? So what are your thoughts on that? When we think about the word hope, what do you think about?
Something bigger than myself, believing in something bigger than myself.
Believing in something bigger than yourself. That's a great example. What else?
I think choice.
Choice. So like choosing to be hopeful. Okay. Look for the good. Believing in something that isn't seen, believing in something bigger than yourself. I think history. I think when I think of the word hope, I think of the word history. And here's why. When I start to think, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. Oh my gosh, things aren't going to work out. Oh my gosh, I am overwhelmed. Is this ever going to end? I'm not going to have any money. And then we can spiral, right? We can quickly go from a little fear to a spiral, to a tornado in our minds of like everything could fall apart. But when I take a moment and sit back and think, I never thought I could do that, but look at what I got done. I never thought I'd finish that, but look how far I've come. I remember when I visualized being on a stage, and now I've been on thousands of stages. It's like looking back to look forward. What's the worst thing that can happen? So a lot of times I work with people that have fears, some rational, some irrational, and everything in between, right? I'm terrified of a plane. Oh my gosh, I can't fly. What are you afraid of? What if I die? What if you do die? We're all going to die. This is not a surprise for us. So what's the worst thing that happens if you die? You're dead. And actually then, depending on what your beliefs are, and I'm not saying to make light of it. I mean, go to your worst fear. What if I lose my job? What if my marriage doesn't work out? What if I do get that diagnosis? Then what do I do with that? Do I let it stop me? Fear, false? Yes, that's right. Thanks, Kathy. But do I let it stop me from doing whatever? So when I think about hope, when I think about organizations where people are leaving left and right, what I think about is, are you giving them clear communication? Are you telling them what is happening? We are going to lay off a third of our company, or we are going to make people come back into the office, or communicate, because communication can break down that fear, right? I am hopeful for the future. The future looks bright, or we're not sure how the future looks, but at least we can stay hopeful. Okay, then I want to make a plan for myself for a new job, or to get my resume updated, or whatever it is. So when we think about hope, I always think about look back to look forward. What is some of the 3 biggest obstacles you've overcome in your life? How did you do it? Andrew, maybe you look back at those and you go, you know what? I did it with a community of friends around me. That is something I need more in my life. Chris, maybe you did it and you said, you know what? When I was struggling before, I would have more energy. And you know what? I was taking better care of myself. Or Marvia, when you were going through stuff, maybe you were like, you know what? I got to this career and it was hard. Well, starting my own business is going to be hard, but can I do it? Absolutely. Can I move forward? Absolutely. Will there be obstacles? And then who do I surround myself with to make sure that I keep moving forward? What's my own support system? So as I'm a coach, I have a coach. As I am a speaker, I have a peer group of speakers, and I hang out with speakers that are even more successful than I am, so that I can say, okay, what are you doing and what can I learn from you? So I think hope is about looking backward to look forward. I personally have a lot of reasons to not be hopeful, which is partially why I'm so passionate about this. When I do it in a live presentation, I demonstrate this through using a blanket and lights and different things to show people what it looked like to be me growing up. But I was told I was stupid. I was told I would never amount to anything because I have dyslexia and because I'm a terrible speller. And some people say I have ADHD. But what I did is I took all that, and every time people said, oh, that'll never work for you. I remember when I bought my first gym, kind of my writing and my gym were huge for me in looking back to look forward to have hope. But when I bought my first gym, the man that I bought from, and it would be my gym, and it was about an hour from my home, and I had never owned a gym. I had never been to this small town. And he said, good luck to you, after I signed the papers and we got off the elevator. And he goes, I've been bleeding for months and now I'm hemorrhaging. Good luck. And he walked off the elevator. I was like, oh my gosh. And what happened in that is I learned to hear, I dare you. So instead of that doubt, I heard, I dare you. And literally in 4 months, I was number 4 in the nation for that Snap Fitness, the across the nation franchise. And people are like, what'd you do? I'm like, I worked super hard. When people tell me that I can't read or that I'm not good enough or not smart enough, it becomes fuel for me. So now I've written 5 books. One of them won a national award, even though at 21, I was asked if I was illiterate and they wouldn't give me a college grant. So I think when we look at those things in our past, how did you overcome that challenge and stay hopeful and driven to keep moving forward to your future? So that's what I kind of want to say about hope. And I did the same thing with that is I write goals on one and I write hope on the other. And I think to stay hopeful in the workplace, we need to have successful weekly meetings. We need to talk about the wins as well as the struggles, put it out in the open so people can deal with it. We need to celebrate the small wins. I love to say, people say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I love to say, Dove love a day keeps the doctor away, because there's a little love note inside of that, a little dark talk that never hurt you. And it's just, I love to leave those on people's desks randomly, just to do that encouragement, creating something fun. I love Secret Santa. I don't know how many companies are doing that anymore, but those little things that remind people that work, yes, we get paid to go to work. And that's why it's not always easy and it's not always fun, because we get paid. It is a job. But it can be enjoyable and we can connect and have accountability partners, encouraging people that help each other. That's what I want to say on hope. And the last one is happy. Who is happy? Who listens to happy music, right? Like, we need some happy in our life. So orange is the color of happiness. If you want more happiness in your life, put on some orange, put some orange around you, eat some oranges, whatever it is. And I got this in an email today. I thought it was so good. I wanted to share it with you guys if you want to write these down, but it said, when you're feeling anxious. So before I move on to happy, and we'll just do a couple minutes on that and we can chat. But when you're feeling anxious, which all of us feel anxious sometimes, we all have some stress in our lives. So it's acknowledge and release. It says the first thing to do when you feel anxious is go outside, get some fresh air, walk outside, take 3 deep breaths. You will feel better just coming back in. Ask for help. A lot of people have trouble asking for help. I'm always asking for help. I need help with everything. But you know what? As soon as I ask someone to help me, what it does is it gives them permission to ask me to help them. And it breaks down a barrier. It helps us be authentic and vulnerable with one another. We need each other. We need community, which is part of what's been so hard over the last year. Create something. If you're feeling anxious, create something. I like to watch one TV show. It is called Shark Tank. And that is because they're always creating. They're taking good and making it better. They're challenging business owners. They're making us think about our business, right? Take a deep breath. Take some deep breaths inside your office or outside. Find a positive distraction. I love listening to loud, uplifting musical music, country music. I kind of love all music, pop music, it doesn't matter. Listen to something positive. Stay present. Sometimes when life feels overwhelming and we start spinning, put your feet on the ground, take a deep breath in, and just remember you are right here, right now, in this moment. You're not in the future, you're not in the past, you're in this one moment, and do one positive thing for yourself. Write about how you feel, journal, drink some water. A lot of people have gone to alcohol in the last year to deal with all the struggles. And I just encourage you, drink a little water, add a little water in there with it. So happy. What makes you happy? What are some things that make you happy? What brings a smile to your face?
Grandkids.
That's right. That's the number one joy, Andrew, in the whole world. And then people say, what about your kids? I'm like, you're not old enough to have grandkids. You don't know. They're even better than the kids, right? Grandkids. They say that's the number one joy in the world. Grandkids. I like that. What else? What else makes you happy?
Reggae.
Reggae music. Music?
Yes. Yeah. You said music. Reggae.
Yeah. Yeah, super fun. Reggae. I love it. What else?
Hey, I'm Giselle, getting outside. If I get outside every day, I feel good.
Right. That's why I'm moving to Florida, because it's too cold to go outside in Minnesota for 3 to 6 months. So awesome. Outside, some fresh air. And plus, if you go outside and pay attention, the wind is blowing. The birds there's so much going on. It's so beautiful outside. I love it. I agree with you. What else, ladies?
I think a good audiobook, so I can take it with me on the go. So when I'm at the gym or I'm walking or something, it's good. When you're cleaning, when you're thinking.
I love that. I recorded my Be the Exception audio, and I've done a lot of challenging things in my life. It was one of the most challenging, but I'm so grateful I did, because people say, I love that it's your voice, Annie, that you are sharing your story. And so I'm not a big audio listener, but I know people love that. That's it kind of just takes you out of your world and into this journey with another person. That's beautiful. How about you, Chris?
Spending time with friends.
Mm.
Yeah.
Being with friends, right? Because our friends love us and accept us and laugh with us and treasure us. If we got just a couple of good friends, we don't need a ton, Andrew, but just a couple of deep, good friends, and they can be family or friends. I went and cooked dinner for my sister yesterday, and she's like texting me, "Thank you so much. That's the best meal I've had in a year and a half." It was not fancy. I'm not a big cook, but it just made her happy. She came home from work and I was already there cooking, and, you know, being with people that are family or friends that love us and we get to love them. I love that. I like to remind people when we think about happiness, look for it. Look for happiness, seek it, and don't wait for it to come to you. And always I'm working on expectations, because like I said, I have high expectations, but I try to remember, slow down, Annie, and what can make you happy? I think what we look for is what we find. So I always am looking around, what can make me happy today? And sometimes that happy. Yesterday there was a rainbow. Rainbows light me up. I just love rainbows.
Mhm.
Butterflies. I love butterflies. Seeing someone smile, seeing someone laugh. I was on a walk with my 2 dogs who just cracked me up, because one of my dogs is 11 pounds, but he thinks he's like 250 pounds. And even birds make fun of this poor guy. I mean, they like wag their, and he's so angry. But I just crack up. I'm like, every morning I start my day with Leo, and he just makes me laugh. Peanut, grumpy, but Leo's hysterical in the morning. So look for the little things. And because life is challenging for all of us in different ways, look for ways first to seek happiness, but then second, to make someone else happy. So I like gratitude, but one of my greatest joys is generosity. How can I serve another? And I was on a podcast the other day, and the guy goes, Annie's giving us an assignment, which I didn't really think I was doing, but I said, every day I look for beauty, I'm aware of the struggle, and then I ask, who can I serve? And so I look for the beauty, be aware of the struggle, your own and other people's, but then look for who you can serve. I think there are a lot of people hurting in this world, and there's a lot of different ways. I try to make a list of, plan some fun. I'm a big believer in game night. I like to go play bingo. I like to be with community, photo contests, kind of who can do the goofiest photo of themselves and still like themselves. Mm-hmm. So kind of doing a twist to what other people think is beautiful and making people laugh, because laughter truly is the best medicine. So when we're happy and we spread that joy by serving one another, I think it can bring in happiness. And so being healthy, hopeful, and happy, I believe it starts with ourselves. But then I really believe that it goes from there to how we show up at work and how we spread it with other people. And this one's just for you, Andrew. Is it really healthy, hopeful, and happy is my cultures that I like to talk about. But the pink stands for relationships. Who do I love and who loves me? And so sometimes I invite people to make a list of who do I love? Who do I have their back on their best day and their worst day? And then who has my back? Who will listen to me at 2 a.m. when I'm grumpy? Who will still be there when I've not been my best for a week or two? And I like people to make lists of that. And I always say, it's not how many we have. Sometimes it's 1 or 2 people in our lives that really love us and that we really love. And sometimes it takes that intention to reach out and say, I just want you to know I really love you. I really care about you, because we take relationships like we take a lot of things for granted. Me losing so many people young in my life makes me think differently about how I love people and how I'm intentional to write cards or to send text or to just check on people randomly when they pop in my mind, to stop what I'm doing and just send, are you okay? I'm thinking about you today. I'm here for you. And I think not everybody will ever live a life of intention to be able to do that for us, but we can always choose to do that for another. And so pink is relationships. We got a couple more minutes. So what are your thoughts about happy? Questions, comments, whatever, before we end our time together? Well, I will just say that I'm Annie Meehan. I know Kathy's going to share this on YouTube. I always share once a week on YouTube. So I have over 200 videos. I always invite people to be my subscribers. I'm on LinkedIn at least a couple times a week. I'm on Facebook a couple times a week. My website is Annie Meehan. I've written books. I primarily speak. I do coach and consult as well. I have an online course and I have 5 different books. If you want to learn more about what I do or why I do it, but my passion really comes from how I grew up and then owning businesses, climbing the corporate ladder. And so wanting to share with other people what is possible, no matter what it looks like, no matter where you come from. I really love to invite people to rewrite their story to the story they want to live, not to the story they were told to live if it does not serve them. And so as part of living my dream life is I am moving to Florida the end of October, but I've lived in Minnesota for 40 years. And now we just bought a condo across the street from the beach because I'm not going to wait until I can't walk the beach. I'm going to go there now and walk the beach 2 to 3 times every day and live in the joy that I try to spread to other people.
That's awesome.
I put a question in the chat box, hoping a couple of people comment there, and those of you that are live and brave to come in and say, what's your favorite takeaway from the conversation today?
Yeah, you can unmute and answer, or you can just chat, or you can write in the chat box, or you can chat it out with us if you'd like. I think I gave you food for thought, right? Things to think about.
Yeah, I think it was, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's you know, things that you know, that we want to know, but keeping it intentional. So building that intentional piece, even for ourselves, and remembering, because we may be people who are always helping someone and can remind people of all these things. But it's like, okay, but you too, you deserve to be thinking about these pieces. So yeah, definitely a great thing for me to focus on for myself.
Awesome. Intention, I like that. What were you going to say, Chris?
I was just going to say thank you. Thank you. I'm always inspired by someone who is able to kind of put into a understandable framework the things that I also believe to be so important. And so thank you for that. And also I was just reflecting, Kathy, on the elements of health, Annie, that you shared are very much aligned to our affirmation work that we do with our clients. It's like, and we start there with all these core elements of helping the client understand and identify, you know, their health in these different areas. So it was a nice connection. Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. Welcome.
This is Giselle. I can jump in.
Yeah.
I loved the looking back. When I did that, things shifted in here and I thought, my gosh, look at all the things I've overcome. So I'm really going to share that with clients. I had a visceral change. That was great. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
I love that. It is like proof. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh. Some days I'm like, what have you done? You're not doing enough. And I'm like, look how far you've come. Look what you've overcome. Look at the lives you've impacted. Look at, and all of a sudden it's like you go from like just down into this like, oh my gosh, I can do amazing, cool things. And so I love that. I love that you absorb that, because I think there's a lot of people that aren't hopeful right now. And I'm like, let's look back to look forward. Let's look back to look forward. Great. Thank you.
Nice. Andrew, you've got some good things in the chat box. Share them.
Oh, well, a couple of things. First of all, the takeaway for me is this whole different dimensions of health. That was really, really impactful. Again, it was that aha moment that kind of changed the perspective. But also I was thinking just now, I sat on this, it's a learning opportunity. I want to, and I feel so happy afterwards just because of your infectious energy. It's just like, oh, good. I've had my intake of energy and happiness today. Thank you.
I love it. That's why I want to be with people, because people are like, I just feed off your energy, Annie. You're just so happy. And I'm like, well, I was sad the first 20 years of my life. So now happiness is my choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
Excellent.
Wow.
And after this conversation, I will send a link to the recording on YouTube so you can all go back and check it out. Or it'll be there. So if you want to grab it, it's there. Annie, thank you so much for being here. Feel free to touch base. I'm going to post the link in LinkedIn and the other social media. So if you want to jump in and chat, then people will be able to connect with you through the social media as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Nice to meet you all. Have a great weekend. I'm headed to San Francisco tonight, so take care.
Safe travels. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bring a jacket, Annie. It's cold here.
Is it?
Yes, always.
I'm bringing the sunshine though. I am bringing the sunshine.
Okay, well, you can always buy a San Francisco hoodie, so that's perfect.
Okay.
Bye, take care.
Thanks.